You look good out there on that 6 o'clock. But then I saw this.
The doctors had to restart his heart. It makes me think of Steve. How many alien invasions did he stop again?
2.
2. Wow. What made me think I could follow that? I should have took the serum. Like Steve, like you.
Why?
Because this is all starting to seem much bigger than me. Ross, he asked me to restart the Avengers, Buck. But Joaquin's in here, Isaiah's in prison, and Stearns. I had Stearns right in my hands. And he got away. He damn near pushed us to the brink of war. Because I wasn't.
Say what you need to say.
Steve made a mistake.
No, he didn't.
Welcome to the Superhero Cinephiles Podcast. I'm your host, Perry Constantine, and joining me today is a pair of returning guests, and that's Nic and Dani Baldwin. Guys, how you doing tonight?
Doing very well, thank you.
We're great.
Well, glad to have you guys back on. Always fun to talk with you. Today, we are going to be talking about Captain America, Brave New World, 2025 film directed by Julius Ona, and this is I was gonna say Howard Mackie, that's a comic book writer. Anthony Mackie's first turn as Captain America on the big screen. But before we get too much into that, why don't you remind people a little bit about who you are, what you do, all that kind of stuff.
It's a deep question.
That is a deep question. Who am I? No. Well, we are a couple of individuals who are a married couple with a young child, which is why our brains don't work as well anymore. We are also, like Perry, some podcasters that we do as a hobby for ourselves. And outside of that, we are parents and employees of the companies and people that employ us.
Actually, Perry, since the last time we talked, I fully quit my job because it was crushing my soul. He left. it was. And so
I feel you exactly.
Yeah. So now I'm doing a couple other different things, started my own company, and I'm doing some like educational consulting and executive functioning coaching. So things are a little different now. I'm not working full time. I'm doing 3 part-time jobs and being a mom.
I was going to say full-time mother and then 3 additional part-time jobs.
Yeah. I mean, just parenting is a full-time job in and of itself.
Yeah, and I mean, part of the way that we made the economics of that work was to pull Hayden out of daycare. And so that made Danielle the actual primary caregiver on a daily basis in a way that was not the case prior to that. So.
Yeah, so I'm tired.
Yeah, God. I lose my mind whenever my kids are homesick or anything. And it's just because it always happens whenever I have a day off, right? Whenever I have a day off, I'm like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do some writing today, and then inevitably I get a call from the preschool. Philip has a fever, or Helena threw up, or something like. Okay. All right, clear the schedule because nothing is getting done now.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell people a little bit more about your podcast? How's that going?
Sure. We are in love, with movies, where we talk about love and movies. This is our 7th year, because we're in the 8th year of our marriage. The inaugural episode we released on our 1-year anniversary. So always go however many years we're married and then add 1 or subtract 1. Yeah. We did have a longer than expected hiatus last year, where things with Hayden just, got us busy. We had put a bunch in the bank and then thought we would catch back up, and we just didn't. So we went from like November to, I don't know, I think August or something like that. But we've been back at it again. And so we've, the last several months have had an episode every month, and we were getting guests back on, both new and returning, and we're having a really great time talking movies again over on our stuff as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I know what that's like. I've had those situations where I've backlogged a whole bunch of episodes. I'm like, I'm fine. I can coast for a little bit, not making a big priority on scheduling stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, this is the last episode of the bank. I'm gonna do it for next week.
Gotta do it again.
Yeah. And I think I kind of screwed myself though, because when I started this show, it was me and my buddy, and we were doing it week to week, just our regular conversations. And he passed away after the 60th episode, and that's when I switched to having different guests on. And by that point, I thought maybe I should have done a season thing, which is what I do on my other podcast, but I didn't. And now I'm, always kept playing catch up now.
Do you
It'd be a little bit weird to.
How many?
It'd be a little bit weird to sit. We're in the 200s now.
I was gonna say, I know it's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. We started doing this right before the pandemic. So I think it was like tail end of 2019 is when we started doing this. So yeah, it's been going for a while. And it'd be weird now to just stop and do like, okay, season 1 is 200 some episodes. And now season 2 is like 5.
Oh man. Yeah, that would be strange. I've seen some podcasts do it, but I also was seeing something the other day, because I know Danielle and I often joke about like our quote unquote dozens of listeners, mocking the low listenership that we have. But in reality, I saw something the other day that was a statistic wherein I think it was something, I'm going to misquote, but it was like 92% of all podcasts have less than 8 downloads per episode on average, and we're above that, like well enough above that I think we're in the cream of the crop then, if that's the case.
Yeah,
so.
We're basically famous, is what you're saying.
I didn't realize it was that high. Like I knew like overall podcast listenership per episode was low, but I get like about 100 per episode on average, and I always thought that was really low, and now I feel a lot better now.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we've cracked that before. It's certainly not our typical, unfortunately. But yeah, no, that's just it. And I think when I stop and think about it, it starts to make sense, because you can start thinking about, okay, well, there's all the people who've like done 2 or 3 episodes and then given up on it. And then there's, the people who, which apparently this is a phenomenon, will just like do a podcast intentionally as like a way of staying in touch with friends and family. So it's basically just writing, a monthly Christmas card type of thing, like this is what's going on in our life, and then there are people who love them, subscribe, and those are the only 8 people that listen. So I don't know, I think it's wild to think about that, and it makes you realize like, yeah, there really are quite literally just millions of podcasts out there that nobody is listening to, but
oh yeah, yeah,
it's easy to do, I guess, and that's the thing.
Well, now they got the AI podcast now too, that it's
which is
ridiculous.
Like, why even have a podcast? Just let AI schlock it together for you.
Actually, there's this learning tool. I'm not sponsored by anything, but it's called like Notebook LM, where you can say like, hey, I want to study for a history test, and then you can like upload notes, or you can find like already created notes, and then you can say, I'm better as an auditory learner, make me a podcast, and within 60 seconds it'll make you a 15-minute podcast, and it sounds like real life people having a conversation, and they'd be like, well, in 1892, I don't know what happened in 1892, but it's crazy. Technology's scary.
So is that Notebook LM you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I've used that for my writing. Like I've uploaded like manuscripts and stuff, and just out of curiosity, I did the podcast thing, and it was kind of cool how they were talking about my manuscript and they're picking out like different insights from it and stuff like that, or like different themes that were kind of like consistent. I'm like, oh wow, that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I use it with my students to tell them like it's a different way to study, to take like your study guide and have it like conversationally relayed back to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really
That's
interesting.
Truly trippy to me.
It is.
We could
It's
probably,
also weird
if we're willing to just hand over the rights to our voices, we could probably find some kind of a software that would like just keep running our podcast. You know what I mean? Like every time we can't have an episode, we'll just tell it that we watched, I don't know, some other movie that we have not yet watched, and be like, okay, now make an episode of In Love with Movies with Danny and Nick.
They would kind of defeat the purpose, though. I don't understand those types of
Yes, it would.
Because one of the reasons I keep doing this podcast is because I don't have those interactions that I used to have in like the comic book store or anything like that. So this gives me a place to talk about this stuff that I used to do when I used to have a comic book shop that I used to go to.
Yeah, I mean, outside of our episodes that we record or when we get to be guests on someone like yours, the equivalent of this for me is listening to podcasts like yours and others that are that parasocial relationship where, it's only a one-sided conversation, but it still feels like you're at least having a dialogue with somebody about something that you watched or read or what have you. Yeah.
Well, and we created our podcast. Nick created our podcast to force me to watch movies. So
that is accurate.
That is a good idea. I mean, my wife and I used to watch tons of movies together, but now she tends to go to sleep early. She works a lot longer hours than she used to, so we don't get a chance to watch as much movies together. It's like maybe once a week or less sometimes we watch a movie together. So, and usually she'll be like, I want to watch a movie tonight. And I'm like, okay. And then she'll fall asleep.
Being a mom is hard, man.
I know. I totally sympathize. And there have been times when, like, the next day, I just like, all right, I'm just going to let her sleep. She's tired. And the next day, she's like, why didn't you wake me up? I wanted to watch the movie.
Aw.
So now I try to wake her up and like, do you want to watch or no? And she's like, no. And just goes to sleep.
Yeah, you do like the gentle thing where like you're not going to get yelled at, but also like you at least attempted it. So it seems like,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, the invitation still stands. I know that you said she in the past, maybe isn't as interested in being on mic as the three of us are, but she's always welcome to come on for another episode of In Love with Movies and give us her perspective on you.
All right. Hopefully her English is not that good to do that. All right. Anyway, what kind of stuff is interesting you guys lately? Anything that's grabbing your attention these days?
Okay, I have two. Well, it's Christmas time, so there's Christmas movies out.
Yeah.
And Christmas movies are great movies for me to watch because you don't actually have to pay attention. So if I miss something, I'm like, I can fill in the blanks. But
especially if it's one you've seen many times before.
The Jonas Brothers just put out a Christmas movie. It's called, I think, A Very Jonas Christmas.
Yep.
And it's good. Like, it's bad, but it's, like, so bad and recognizes how bad it is and how corny it is that it's good. And they did all original songs for the movie. Would I prefer it to be in Sync or Backstreet Boys? Yes. But I will take the Jonas Brothers. So I highly recommend anyone listening, if it's still Christmas time, or not, if the movie still exists, go watch A Very Jonas Christmas. You'll giggle. And Joe Jonas is so hot.
I know you, I think, have not been watching Peacemaker, but people have talked about it on your podcast. I've watched all of that recently, and then in the past week or so, I actually do this during my lunch breaks or times like that because I don't get time away from anything. So it'll be like while I'm eating food and scrolling through emails for work, I will also be on an iPad watching something. And lately it's been Gen V, the boys spin-off show. So catching up on that.
I didn't even know you were watching that.
It's because I just do it in here in the office, secretly while still also working.
Secretly. So. And while he does that, I'm out in the living room any moment I can with a housewife on. It's either New York or Salt Lake City or Potomac. Salt Lake City is top, then Potomac, then New York.
So we actually did do, I did see Peacemaker season 2. We did an episode on it a few episodes ago, actually. So yeah, I'm all caught up on that. Yeah. But yeah, I dug that too. I thought they found a really cool way to backwards integrate it into the new DCU. So that was fun. Most of the stuff I've been doing these days is, excuse me, I'm catching up on most of the comic stuff I'm doing and movies. It's just all stuff for podcasts. I got a whole bunch of podcasts scheduled this month. So I'm just playing catch up, trying to read a whole bunch of stuff to get ready for those episodes. In fact, I actually had to cancel one over the weekend. I had no time to finish the reading. But but what I've been watching lately, though, again, stuff for my classes, but I was watching the last movie that I showed my students for this semester, because now they're on winter break, was Vanilla Sky. And I love that movie. I know it's a movie that a lot of people hate. It's gotten a lot of criticism over the years, but every time I watch it, I'm like, man, this movie's so good. I really dig this.
I agree.
Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever made you watch that one.
I've never seen it.
It is one of many movies that was on the list of movies I wanted to get her to watch, that became the impetus for the podcast. But in the interest of balance, I have to, like, you know, allow her movies as well.
Like a very Jonas Christmas.
You know, and eventually we started having guests on, and we typically let the guests ask the guests to pick the movie, so that ends up not meaning we get through the list that I've had. But I think, personally, Vanilla Sky is a criminally underrated movie, and it is not discussed enough. And it is almost, if you've ever seen it, a shot-for-shot remake of, like, Abre los Ojos, which is, it's a Spanish language, still starring Penelope Cruz, who's the other star of that movie. And it's like, they took
she plays the same character.
And it's, it's like literally the same thing. They just replaced the male lead with Tom Cruise to make it, you know, a Hollywood movie that would sell.
I didn't know
there's
that.
I think there's also something to be said about the way Tom Cruise plays the character in it, because he's got this charm, and that I can't remember the guy who played Cesar in the original, but he was much more because the character's a jackass in both versions, right?
He's not a likable guy, actually. Yeah, he's
not at all. But it really comes through in Open Your Eyes, like almost to the point where it's almost insufferable to watch him. Whereas Tom Cruise is charming, so you don't really quite piece together and be like, wait a minute, this guy's actually an asshole. So I kind of like that aspect of it. The fact that he's a little bit more charming in the role. It's a little bit more fun to watch him. But also, Cameron Crowe did a lot of cool stuff, like incorporating Americana into it, like the album covers, the music, and all that kind of stuff. I think is it's what we said when we talked about the Japanese version of Unforgiven. It's like a very cool translation of the original film. So like they do a really good job of translating it culturally into a different context.
That's a really good point, and I think all of that's accurate. It's been a long time since I saw Open Your Eyes. I remember it was sometime after seeing Vanilla Sky, I caught Open Your Eyes like on IFC or something like that, and was familiar enough and had enjoyed Vanilla Sky enough that I like immediately realized this is the same movie. I'm just watching it in Spanish. So yeah.
What were you teaching? What was the lesson surrounding Vanilla Sky?
Oh, it's a film analysis class. So I give the students a list of movies at the beginning of the semester, and I have them pick I give them different genres. So I give them like sci-fi, comedy, action, drama, romance, and I have them pick like top 3 choices for each category, and then I just plug it all into ChatGPT, and I'm like, do a rank choice and tell me like what are the best movies in each, what are the top ranks in each genre, what are the top ranks overall, and then I just kind of piece together a syllabus based on that.
That's cool. What was your comedy this year? I'm just curious.
Comedy, we've done a few comedies actually. So we've actually done a few comedies. We did Crazy Stupid Love, Barbie, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I guess you could technically call that a comedy.
For sure.
RoboCop, technically in some ways a comedy. 10 Things I Hate About You.
Nice.
Back to the Future. And in January, we're going to be doing My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
I like most of those choices.
I was going to say, some of them you have not seen.
What was the first one you said?
Crazy Stupid Love.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
One I actually think you would genuinely very much enjoy.
But Jack Black, Cameron Diaz, is that right? Am I right?
In the holiday?
No.
I was going to say, where are you?
Who's in Crazy Stupid? Oh, wait.
That's Steve
Carell.
And Julianne Moore, Kevin Bacon, Ryan Gosling, and Emma Stone.
All right, I'll watch it.
It's really good. It's really fun. But anyway, so let's start talking about Captain America: Brave New World. So, I mean, Danny, I know you are not a comic reader, but Nick, do you have any history with Captain America in the comics, either Steve Rogers or Sam Wilson?
Definitely more Steve Rogers. So, I mean, I've read a lot of the one-off stories and things or like, you know, event things where Steve is the main guy. I've read some of the Ultimates from the Ultimate Universe. I've read some of, there was like some sort of Avengers Assemble book I remember I read a while back, but probably the biggest one is like the more recent run, and I'm forgetting the writer now, but it was like started a year or two ago or something like that.
Oh, is that the Chip Zdarsky or is that the J. Michael Straczynski?
I was about to say Chip Zdarsky, because I think that's actually
okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, the one that when it's like he wakes up in the post 9/11 world, they kind of update the origin. Right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I haven't read that yet, but I'm looking forward to checking that out.
Yeah, I like it's been interesting. I've only made it like 3 or 4 issues in. Like I had it on my pull list and then just was not reading it fast enough. But that would be the thing that I probably like. I've sat down and this is a Captain America named comic. You know what I mean? Other than that, you know, my familiarity with I was about to say Bucky, but it's not Bucky, obviously.
Although he was also Captain America in the comics for a time too.
Yes, yes. And yeah, but it's so MCU is what I was going to say, though, is like, you know, that's my familiarity with it. I've watched all of the, you know, we'll get into it because I think it relates to this, but watching the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, very much enjoyed that. I feel like that was, spoiler, a better treatment on the I'm wrestling with whether or not I deserve to be Captain America than what is played up in this particular movie. But yeah, that would be my experience with Falcon as Captain America.
So, Danny, what's your Captain America experience with the movies? I'm guessing only.
You're correct. I had a lot of questions during this movie because I love my husband very much, and we go to as many Marvel movies as we can. But I remember seeing the trailer for this one, and I said, "Can I skip it?" Like, I just didn't really have any interest in this one. It didn't look super great to me. Was I wrong? I don't know. But I knew that Falcon becomes Captain America because at the end of Endgame,
Yep.
Yes.
that's when they pass the torch. So obviously I've seen that. I skipped a lot of I don't know, what's the Bucky one? What's the Bucky?
Falcon and Winter Soldier was the name of the show.
But his movie, I didn't see that.
Oh,
one.
Bucky didn't. That was in. Are you talking about the Winter Soldier movie?
Yeah, you keep saying I've seen it. I have no recollection of that one.
You mean Captain America: the Winter Soldier?
Correct.
No, you have definitely
Really?
seen
I
that. It
don't
is.
remember.
You should. Then you are definitely due for a rewatch because that is one of the best MCU movies.
And it attempts to accomplish some of the same things, and in many ways, some of the same story beats as this movie, but does it better.
But the
Exactly.
original
Yeah.
Captain America is a fantastic movie. I will say.
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Like that is that's when the MCU used to be good. I miss it.
You did a like Captain America specific movies rewatch with me up through Civil War because it was only the 3 at the time. Because I think this is the 4th, right? This is the 4th one.
This is the 4th. Yeah.
Yeah, the title Captain America at the start. Yeah. So that's the reason I know, like, because you and I did that.
Okay, but there's a difference between the TV being on and me paying attention watching the movie.
And there's a difference between me saying I did a rewatch, which I've done multiple times in our relationship, and we did a watch of those movies. So I do know that at least one time in your life you sat down and you paid attention mostly to that
Yes.
movie. But it doesn't matter.
And
We'll get into that.
Can I say, in real life, we have met Chris Evans for
Oh, that's true.
Oh, really?
5 seconds because Nick paid for the thing at C2E2. But Chris Evans, I'm like, okay, whatever, he's fine. In person, holy cow, that man is a movie star. Like, there was no questions asked. His butt is amazing. That's America's ass right there. So, he was really nice. He was a cool dude. But
Yeah.
you weren't allowed to touch him. And I think it's because a lot of people probably touch his butt.
I mean, I think
Probably, yeah, I'd imagine so.
Yeah, fist bump. But
yeah, there was like one of those things where it's like he's a big enough star. They're telling you in advance this is the extent of the physical interaction you're allowed to have. At least there wasn't a plexiglass screen between us, like when I met Hayden Christensen, which
Really?
But this is COVID.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, yeah.
Oh,
it
okay,
was.
the COVID. Okay, I was gonna say it'd be funny if he just Hayden
Yeah,
Christian
just like,
walking
I'm
around
not
like
getting near my fans.
he's got like a personal Pope mobile. He's always walking around in.
I think I remember when we walked away after the fist bump and the hi, nice to see you, and I said something really corny, but I said like, thank you for making nerd stuff cool or something that. You know what I mean? Because I genuinely think he and the MCU have done that. Yeah, and then we walked away and you were like, that is America's ass. Like, I'm pretty sure those exact phrase with that intonation left your mouth.
Yeah, he's just a large, chiseled man.
I mean, geez, just thank you for making masculinity not toxic.
Right? Yeah, and it's like, even especially you think about his version of Captain America, it's not only, it's very positive, but it's still strong. Like, I think a lot of non-toxic masculinity leans towards more of like specifically embracing femininity, which is okay also, but his is not that, right? Like, he's still the ass-kicking leader of the Avengers, and yet is, as you said, not toxic.
Yeah, I think he does that really well, and so does John Cena too, surprisingly, with like the Peacemaker stuff. I mean, and
I keep
he's
trying
also
to pitch
someone
that show
who,
to my friends for that reason. Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. The first season especially really deep into that part of it. So what is your history with? I mean, first off, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we'll come right back and we'll dive into the movie. Blast off into a new universe with Corsairs, a new sci-fi space opera serial by me, Percival Constantine. In these adventures, join the crew of the Corsair, a group of intergalactic mercenaries, as they struggle to survive in the depths of corporate-controlled space. If you're a fan of Firefly, Cowboy Bebop, or Guardians of the Galaxy, then you're going to love Corsairs. Subscribers to my Patreon get 2 new episodes a week, while free members get 1 new episode a week starting in December. Patreon offers new subscribers a 7-day free trial, but I'm also throwing in another perk. If you sign up with the coupon code SCP, you'll get 90% off your first month. So visit patreon.com/Percival Constantine and join in the adventures. We all love superhero movies and TV shows, but what about the comics that inspired them? Marvel, DC, Image, and more have provided the template for the movies and shows we all enjoy watching, and it's important to honor that tradition by buying and reading comic books. Superhero Cinephiles is proud to be an affiliate of mycomicshop.com. It began as a small mail-order business operated by junior high school student Buddy Saunders all the way back in 1960, and has been operating on the internet since 1997. My Comic Shop has new releases, value packs, back issues, trade paperbacks, comic art, regular auctions, and a whole lot more, including 35% discounts on pre-orders. You can also sell your own comics or utilize their consignment services. You can even create your own want list of comics you're searching for. To get started, check out our affiliate link in the show notes or on the superherocinephiles.com homepage. And we're back. Now, so Nick, I know you said you had watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Danny, did you watch the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So how lost were you going into this movie?
I think there was a couple times we paused and I had a few questions. But I will say, I don't think what got me lost in this movie was who was who. I think what got me lost was the plot of this movie itself. The political mumbo jumbo. I don't know. It was really kind of blurry what was happening.
To give an example of the level that of attention my darling wife pays to these properties and movies, even when she has seen them. At one point I said something to the effect of, I don't think he seems like the real version in that one scene, referring to Ross, where we've got him, the one and only, like, sort of flashback to a news conference where he's still got the mustache. And Danielle was like, wait, he's playing a different person who's already been in it? Like, she had absolutely no concept of the idea that he was in fact playing a character that had existed in previous movies, played by a different actor. And it didn't seem to bother her. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
like, that's, and to some degree, it really didn't matter. Like, the things that mattered in terms of this particular movie and story, they did kind of catch you up on. But
And I mean, I guess Betty was supposed to be important, and I don't really know Betty. And I was pleasantly surprised by my new friend Joaquin. Also, very hot man. But I had no idea who that was. And I asked, I was like, am I supposed to know him? And you said he wasn't really in Falcon Winter Soldier too much.
I think I remember him being in it, but he wasn't nearly as centrally as he is to this.
Yeah, he was there. He was providing support for Sam and Bucky on their missions. And when Sam's, if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a while since I've seen Falcon and Winter Soldier, Sam's Falcon suit gets damaged, and he gives it to Joaquin, and he tells him, do whatever you want with it, type of thing. So that's kind of like hinting that Joaquin will become the new Falcon, because Joaquin actually does. This is something from the comics. Is Joaquin becomes the Falcon to Sam's Captain America in the comics as well, but it's a different type in that he actually gets mutated. So he's like a bird mutate type thing. So he's got like actual wings and stuff like that.
Bird person, like
yes, a bird person.
Rick and Morty, bird person.
Was I also supposed to know Isaiah? What?
Isaiah Bradley.
a big part of Falcon and Winter Soldier was Isaiah's story, so that came through in Falcon and Winter
But
Soldier.
only
as
in
well.
that TV show. He wasn't in any movies or anything.
Correct.
No,
In
just the
fact,
movie,
it was like
yeah.
sort of one of the mysteries and the reveals of that TV show was learning more about Isaiah Bradley. Yeah.
Gotcha. So at one point he was Captain America.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
and Perry, I'll let you correct me if I'm wrong on my memory of this. I still want to read that story that was written a while ago, but basically the story of Isaiah Bradley in the comics is he was a version of Captain America that nobody knew about, but it was, I think, Vietnam War era where they had actually done, basically it's a analogy to this Tuskegee prison experience, or not prison, sorry, Tuskegee Airmen experiments. Yeah. And they gave Tuskegee experiments were a thing in psychology where they experimented on people specifically who were black, specifically knowing that it was gonna harm them. I think they gave them syphilis or things like that.
Yeah.
And just we're like, oh, it's okay. We're just gonna do it to these people who are in the military, but only the specifically black regiments or something like that. And so his story is supposed to be them attempting to recreate the super soldier serum from Steve Rogers some decades later, but they intentionally did it on only black regiment, and a bunch of people died, and even those that did live, were abused and sent on missions and then put in prison so nobody would find out what they'd done, basically. So
yeah,
cool.
The original, you're mostly right. You got the time period a little bit off. It was actually during World War II and into the Korean War. So yeah, what happened was, it was actually, the way it was originally pitched was that Isaiah was supposed to have been the first successful super soldier, even before Steve Rogers. The idea was that they're testing it before they give it to a white soldier. They decided not to do that, though, because they didn't want to take it away from Steve that he is the original Captain America. So they decided to do it as they're recreating the super soldier serum. And because you remember, like in First Avenger, the formula gets, when the doctor dies, the formula is gone because he never put it down anywhere. And that's the very similar thing happens in the comics. So when they were trying to recreate it, they went through all these different experiments and they tested it on a whole regiment of black soldiers, and Isaiah was the only successful one. And he broke ranks and he went behind enemy lines in Germany and actually had an encounter with Hitler too. And Hitler was trying to convince him, he's like, America, they don't care about black people. They treat you guys terribly. We don't mind black people here. We just hate the Jewish people. So why don't you join? And he told him to go stick it. So, and then when he got back, he was put in prison for a while, and they actually extracted some of his DNA and they used it to, and his wife's DNA, and they used it to create a child, Josiah X, who becomes another version of the super, and he was the one who basically went through Vietnam and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're kind of melding the two together. And basically think Malcolm X if he was a super soldier, and that was Josiah X, basically.
Oh, see, that's interesting. I would like to see a movie on that.
I know. Josiah X is one of the most underrated characters in Marvel, and it'd be really cool. He recently came back, and there was a recent Sam Wilson comic book miniseries, and Josiah came back in that, and it was really cool to see him again. But he had the main story where he appeared in was a comic book called The Crew in the early 2000s, and it's in the Christopher Priest Black Panther collections. So if you check out that, there's a 6-issue series it's called The Crew, and it's got Josiah in there, it's got Rhodey, War Machine in there, and a few other characters. Really awesome series, and the Josiah stuff especially really resonated with me. It's really well written stuff.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, the stuff like that, it's really good that Marvel at least got into it, but it makes me think of, I feel like nowadays they're especially gun shy from doing things like this. You see it more in independent comics. I remember some years back I read something that was, I think the title, if I remember correctly, was literally just black, and essentially the plot line was the real reason that America and other people have done things to keep black people sort of underfoot is they are secretly the only people who can develop superpowers. And so they are superpowered beings that then fight back against the man, because that's the secret that's out. It's that's the true fear of black people, is that they actually could overpower the other people who have power. Anyway, it's a good book. I'd recommend that one.
So sorry, go ahead, Danny.
In the comics, when were the comics written where Sam Wilson becomes Captain America? Because this part wasn't heavy-handed, but it's I think it's intentional that there is a Black and a Latino lead superhero, and I wonder if that's old stuff or like that's newer, you know what I'm saying? Like if we're trying to be more inclusive now, or is this actually just like from a long time ago and we're finally just seeing it on screen?
It's fairly recent. Sam first became Captain America in, I think I wanted it was like 2012-ish, somewhere around there. And because Steve had gone through this, he was trapped in another dimension for a while where time worked differently. So when he came back, he was an old man. And so he gave the shield over to Sam, and then eventually Steve got de-aged, and then they both decided to continue being Captain America at the same time, which is the current status quo right now. So they're both Captain America in the comics. And when Sam got his own title, I think it was like his second stab at his own title, that's when they introduced Joaquin as the new Falcon. And it's two different things. Like part of it is inclusivity, part of it is also just Chris Evans was done being Captain America, so they needed to have another Captain America anyway. And the choice came down to either Bucky, who was also Cap in the comics, or Sam. And Sam was the most recent Cap. He was the current Cap in the comics when Endgame came out. And also just Bucky's story, it made sense that he didn't feel he was the right person to take up the shield. So I think that's all of that combined together is why they went with Sam.
Yeah.
Cool. Just wondering. I mean, I'm glad to see it, you know? I don't know if Anthony Mackie is, I don't know. He's not Chris Evans.
I mean, he's not as magnetic, maybe as a personality, but I think he's actually, and I've seen him in other things. Like he was in a season of Altered Carbon, I think, and he was good.
Oh, yes, yeah. He was very good.
You know, like, so I was going to say, I think it's the writing more than anything, not
That's fair.
You know, and I would say even the writers probably, their writing was impacted by, to me, this movie reeks of studio notes and reshoots.
There was a lot of reshoots with this. There's a lot of problems with the production of it. And we'll get into all this stuff. But, so Dani, this was your first time seeing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or as far as you remember.
This one I know.
Yeah, this was.
So I'll go to Nick first then. Nick, I assume you saw it before?
Saw it in theaters, yeah.
Okay, so what was your thoughts going into it and afterwards and then rewatching it this time?
So I'll start with saying I went back to my Letterboxd to see after I came up with a rating for this one, and my rating did decline from first viewing to second viewing. My sense going into it in theaters was I'd heard enough whispers that it wasn't stellar, so I wasn't, having high hopes, and I actually think that helped it. Clearly, I did not make Danielle go to see it with me because I was thinking it wasn't that awesome, but I left the movie being like, okay, I could definitely see its flaws. It was not the best MCU movie, not even the best Captain America movie by any means, but I see more here than good than bad, maybe, just barely. And I liked that they were attempting to tie up a number of loose ends. I did have a thought walking out of it, I remember, that I had again watching it the other night, that basically sums up as, if they would have just chosen for this to be a Hulk movie, which I know they couldn't for legal reasons, I think that would have been better. Like, I think part of and I have a note in here in my notes, one of the biggest issues with this movie is it tries to do too many things and therefore struggles to succeed fully at any one of them. And I think if it had just been more focused, it would have been better off.
So Dani, what did you think watching it for the first time?
I actually wrote a note in my notebook that said, is this movie really bad or kind of good? The beginning is awful. It's awful. And it's just true, like, clunky exposition, so slow. I think the fighting is bad. Like, the choreography is bad. It's super slow. Juan Carlo Esposito shows up in every movie that's ever existed from 4 years ago on. Like, he's just in everything now. But then it kind of drew me in when they introduced Isaiah, and then he snaps. And I was like, okay, what is going on? But then it lost me again when I'm like, then they don't really follow through with, I don't know. I just don't think it was executed well. I think the the ideas are pretty good, but like Nick said, I think there were so many different things. Like there's the brainy guy, and then there's the Hulk, and then and I didn't understand their relationship that well. Well, I did. He gamma rayed him, you know. But was that right?
Kind of.
They gammaed each other. I don't know. And then there's a little Black Widow in there, which I thought she could have done so much more. She was a really cool character, and they didn't give her anything to do, really. Yeah, so it was messy, but I was not bored like I thought I was going to be. And the beginning really scared me. Like the first 20 minutes, I was like, this sucks. But
yeah,
didn't.
I literally have a like note in here where DS in the bunker, oh no, sorry, that's a different one. Anyway, she's literally like, oh, it was after the first fight. It was after the first fight, which is like, again, the choreography is terrible. So they're in the church, they're fighting, and Danielle just turns to me and her exact words were, this movie is so bad. But similar to her, like, I think it comes along the way. And I don't know this for sure, but I've heard tell that perhaps some of the reshoots include a lot of that first chunk and a lot of the end chunk, which to me are the pieces that fail the hardest. That first piece almost, to me, reeks of, we wrote this in a weekend and we shot it in 5 days and we finished editing it 3 weeks ago before we released the movie. And that sounds like it may have actually been what happens, because like there's other choreography in this movie that looks good and the fighting looks good. But when I watched the choreography of that first set of scenes, that like hallway scene, it literally looked like something me and my friends put together, for a Star Wars fan film we made when I was like 12 years old. Like that was the level of choreography that was happening, and it was happening that slowly as well.
Can I say one more thing? As a new watcher of Sam Wilson as Cap, because I haven't seen him since he was given the shield, I think what they did with his wings is really cool. Like he like covers himself as his shield. Like his wings can do a lot of things that just the shield couldn't do. And I thought he was a really cool realized Captain America. Like I just liked seeing the new version of him.
So first off, is it pronounced Juan Carlo? I've been saying Giancarlo for years.
I thought it was Juan Carlo.
I think it's Giancarlo.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel embarrassed.
The one thing that I think trips people up, and I'll credit Dan Merle always using a sound clip of Giancarlo saying it himself. It's Giancarlo Esposito, not Esposito. Like, that's because I was saying it as Esposito for a long time, and then Dan started saying it the correct way, and then was like, and before anyone corrects me, and so now every time he says Giancarlo's name, he like puts in a clip of Giancarlo saying his own name.
Do you think he actually speaks Spanish? Because the Spanish in the beginning of the movie was also awful. It was like, oh, hay un problema aquí.
Yes, he does, having seen Breaking Bad and other things where he speaks perfectly fluid Spanish, not Spanish. No, again, I think that's the writing. Like, I think they, A, probably wrote it, and then B, were like, now remember, Giancarlo, there's a bunch of stupid Americans gonna be watching this. You have to talk slow enough for the subtitles to keep up with you.
Okay, I just looked him up because I wasn't sure, but this was interesting. So this is blowing my mind. He's actually born in Copenhagen, and his father is Italian. His mother was African American.
Wow. So
Yeah.
not Hispanic.
I told you.
Not Hispanic
All
at all. Yeah. So maybe it's not his. Maybe he doesn't actually speak Spanish. I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough Spanish to really know to judge how good it is.
I mean, it could just be, again, sort of backing up on I was confident that I said very idiotically that he did, but I have seen him speak it more fluently in other properties. And then before I would lean back on he was probably given enough time to study the dialogue that was not in his native language. Whereas this one, I think they were like, hey, Giancarlo, can you film next week? So
some of the background about this film, because and Nick had touched on this a little bit. A big part of this is, and I think one of the weird things about it is kind of a sequel to The Incredible Hulk, which that was the Edward Norton Hulk film, and that also introduced Liv Tyler. and also William Hurt as played Ross in that. Of course, William Hurt died a few years ago, so even though he came back as Ross in Civil War and then Black Widow, and he also had a brief bit in Endgame, as I recall too.
I think so.
This
Oh
guy's
no,
been in
Infinity
Batman
War.
movies as a character, and I didn't know who he was.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay, so do you remember Civil War? Do you remember Captain America Civil War?
I remember Spider-Man.
Okay, that is the introduction of Spider-Man. The whole thing kicks off because there is a army general looking guy who comes in and says, you all need to now answer to the US government. You can't go off and do your own thing. And Cap says, go to hell with that. And Tony says maybe he's right. And that's what causes Civil War. The army general guy is Ross. And yes, he was in, originally he's coming out of being, you know, an Incredible Hulk antagonist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thought
So
it
he's
had
a
something to do with the Sokovia Accords.
It does have
Yes.
to do with the Sokovia Accords.
That is the Sokovia Accords,
are
exactly.
the thing that told them they had to answer to the
Oh,
American government.
I'm learning so much.
technically to the United Nations, but yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so in this one, since William Hurt passed away, they brought in Harrison Ford here. Also, you had mentioned the widow character, that Shira Haas. She's playing Ruth Bat-Saraff, who in the comics is also a superhero named Sabra. And some of the cuts were done with her character specifically due to controversy around the actress, because so Sabra is an Israeli, is an agent of Mossad in the comic book. So that when they announced that they were going to have Sabra in the movie, that generated some controversy as well. And then Shira Haas, as an Israeli citizen, so Israelis have to do mandatory military service, but she had a medical exemption, but she still insisted on doing her military service.
Oh.
And so that was a big part of the controversy, was her views on Gaza and Palestinian issue and all that kind of stuff. So that's why they truncated her role a lot in the movie. And also we brought back Tim Blake Nelson as Samuel Stern. So in The Incredible Hulk, he's trying to he's been, siphoning off Bruce's DNA, and he's been trying, because Bruce sent him his DNA to help him research a cure, but he's been regenerating it and like generating new types of doing experiments with it. And the last thing he's seen in Incredible Hulk is he has a cut like on his head, and some of Bruce's DNA gets into his cut, and his head starts reforming. And then nothing. We don't see anything from him until this movie. So
yeah,
he was
and
just
mind you, that was in like 2008, 2009 is when that
2008. Yeah, it was the second MCU movie.
Yeah, and you nobody even says his name, refers to him, or any mention or scene of him until he's just suddenly there in this one.
Yeah. So one of the things that kind of drove me nuts about this movie is and like you said, I think the beginning and the end are really where things suffer. And I think also when they lean too much into the Incredible Hulk sequel stuff, that's when the film really starts to lose me. And I really feel like there is a really solid thing here if you have this idea of Ross as the president, Sam having to answer to him. You have this terrorist group led by Giancarlo Esposito in Serpent. That stuff would have been a lot more interesting. I think they could have played a lot more with some of the geopolitical stuff. I thought the stuff with, the geopolitical stuff involving the different countries was really interesting. I was really keyed into that. But then they kept pulling back, and they started bringing back all the Incredible Hulk stuff. And that's really when it kind of lost me. And that, I think one of the biggest mistakes of the marketing in this movie is showing the Red Hulk in the marketing.
1000% agree. I think they were worried nobody would come to see it, which is unfortunate, because one of the things that I do think this movie does decently enough, because they have Harrison Ford leading it, is and actually something you don't think about necessarily, but the first scene you see is him accepting the speech. And if you think about sort of movie making, and a lot of times who you first see in the first scene of a movie is like who that movie is about. So a case could be made that this movie is in fact, it's a movie about Harrison Ford. It's a movie about Ross, even almost more than it is Captain America, which is one of the flaws. Like, it's funny how you're trying to tell this story about like the Black Cap isn't given enough credit and isn't, put front and forward and given enough time. And then you start his movie with a older white man, which is a problem in itself. But if you wanted to make that movie, I think that could have been interesting, and you would have then been like, okay, why are we starting with him if it's a Captain America movie? And then as you progress through it and you start to see these glimpses of Red Hulk and you start wondering, well, what's going on? And then you'd have people who do know that character in the comics becomes Red Hulk. They're going to be like, oh, they're doing it, and starting to get hyped and excited. And then when you finally get to the point where that happens, it feels interesting and justified. Whereas I think myself and others sort of knew it was happening, and we were just like waiting for it to occur in a not excited way, but like, okay, when is that going to happen? Like, when's the fight going to take place?
Yeah, I agree. As someone who, I have no idea who Red Hulk is at all. I wish I would not have known until he became that.
Because then you would have been shocked.
Yeah.
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 Actually, you know what would have been interesting is if they did a Red Hulk movie and they did have, I mean, for comic fans, the mystery would have been lost right away because we already know. But they still could have worked it pretty well, because the same thing with like Winter Soldier. Everybody who read the comics knew Bucky was the Winter Soldier, but in the movie, they actually did a pretty good job of having that suspense built up until you find out.
Yeah, and in fact, to the point where I was not enough of enamored into the comics and Captain America's lore when I first watched Winter Soldier the first time, that I literally didn't recognize even the actor Sebastian Stan from the first movie, and it was dialogue talking about him being his friend, and I think they might even had a flashback where I was like, oh snap, that's that guy? You know what I mean? And it's like, if you weren't a comic book person, that's the feeling you get from it. It's like, oh my gosh. So they lost that when they could have had it here, but everybody knew.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Ross does become the Red Hulk in the comics, which was a terrible comic book. How he was introduced. It was really bad. And especially because the one thing everyone said, well, how come he doesn't have the mustache then? Because he still had the mustache in the comics. And apparently, and they didn't use the mustache because they didn't want to give it away. So they had to come up with this weird explanation that like the mustache shrinks into his lip or something. It was weird. I don't know.
That is comics, man. Like
yeah. But yeah, so like Nick had hinted at, and I don't know how true this is, but this is the long-standing rumor, is that Universal owns the distribution rights to the Hulk. So Marvel owns the character rights. So if Marvel wants to make a Hulk movie, they have to distribute it through Universal, or they have to give Universal the option to distribute it through them. Which is why if you watch The Incredible Hulk, it opens with the Universal logo. But so that's why they haven't been doing any Hulk movies, and why they just have Hulk appearing as a character in other movies, like in Ragnarok or like in the Avengers movies. And
what about She-Hulk?
She-Hulk's technically a different character, so Marvel does have the rights to that full out. So it's weird how these right packages work. Like sometimes it's like a group of characters. For some reason, She-Hulk was not included in that bunch. I don't know why. So I don't know. Maybe
she's
it's because
a woman.
I mean,
I think it's just because she's mostly, even though she is Banner's cousin, like she's not a big player in like the Hulk comics. She is more in like the larger Marvel universe, and was originally created as like a way to stop Hollywood from doing it first, because I think there was supposed to be a TV show in mind for She-Hulk, and there's this idea of doing kind of like with Bionic Woman and $6 Million Man. So they want to do similar with Hulk and She-Hulk. So Marvel had to step in first and create their own She-Hulk to get ahead of them, or something along those lines. It was a weird type of right situation how she was created.
Yeah, I remember hearing that too.
This making this movie a sequel to The Incredible Hulk, I think, Nick, you're right. It takes a lot away from Sam's story, and it always distracts every time I'm watching it. And what did you guys think of Harrison Ford coming in as Ross in this one?
Well, I'm betting you don't have a strong feeling because you don't have any like comparison for him.
Harrison Ford felt out of place in a Marvel movie, to be honest.
That's fair. I actually think, aside from, there's the first scene where you start to get hints that he's turning into a Hulk or whatever, where he's like getting very angry and slams his fist on a table. That felt like really bad acting and dialogue. Like I'd expect more from him. Other than that, outside of that, I feel like he did a pretty good job, and I feel like they did a decent nod. Like it's the switch that they had from what is it, Terrence Howard, I think, was originally Rhodey, and then they replaced him with Don Cheadle. And there's kind of that first scene where he walks in, and there's like that acknowledgement, and it's like they're kind of winking to the audience, and there was that line. He's like, yeah, I had to they told me to get rid of the mustache, or else you're gonna lose the election, or something like that. And it's like supposed to be, like, oh yeah, I look a little different, don't I? It's like, well, yeah, because you're a different human. But I think other than that, I didn't hate it. Like, I get where you're coming from in terms of him feeling out of place, but I thought he slipped into that role fairly well. The one thing I didn't appreciate, well, and this is maybe some of it's similar, is like every time he was acting just outright unreasonably angry, like the same flashback of like a news story where they did have the mustache and he like kicks over a thing. I never got the sense that William Hurt's version of Ross was that kind of a unreasonable hothead. Like every scene that he's in, he's aggressive. He's especially when it came to thinking he was protecting his daughter from Banner in the first Hulk, like he's an asshole, but he's not, like just throwing things randomly, right? Like that was sort of, he was always a much more controlled character. So for them to then set this up and be like, and he's always been a hothead and he had to get past that, reputation that he had, I was kind of like, did he though? Like, and anyway, but yeah, I think I liked Harrison Ford in it as well.
That's a good point. I never considered that and I think it was just me going back to the comics more, because Ross is definitely that in the comics. So I think I was kind of conflating that with Hurt's performance. And also when you compare it, because there have been 3 actors now that have played this character. So in the Ang Lee Hulk film, it was actually
Sam Elliott?
On his name. Sam Elliott, thank you. I always blank on his name every time I say it. I'm like, okay, remember it this time, and I always forget. So yeah, Sam Elliott. He played him in Ang Lee's Hulk, and then when they did The Incredible Hulk, they brought in William Hurt. Hurt played him obviously in Civil War and Black Widow and Infinity War, and then since his death, they brought in Harrison Ford. And my thoughts going into it was, and based on the trailer, was I thought Ford was going to be sleepwalking through the whole movie. I thought he was going to be really phoning it in. But I thought he did better than I expected. I thought he actually did, try pretty well in this. So I kind of dug what he was doing. Although, honestly, I think it would have been cool if they went back to Sam Elliott and brought him back instead.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, I think Sam Elliott would have done a good job too. Yeah.
Because to Danny's point, I do get what Danny's saying too about, it's weird seeing Harrison Ford in this, because I see him and I don't think Thunderbolt Ross, especially without the mustache. I think Harrison Ford. So that's a big thing that keeps pulling at me. Like, even though I do like his performance, I thought he did a pretty good job with the material that he was given there. I do feel like it is very much like I'm looking at Harrison Ford.
Yeah, he's a face. He's not a character actor the way that Sam Elliott usually is. I mean, no joke, like you were struggling to remember Sam Elliott's name, because as much as he is one of that guys that and remember doing great work, he's not a household name the way that Harrison Ford is. I'm not saying he's not a household name in our household. I'm saying he's not a household name the way that Harrison Ford is.
No, I agree. I think Harrison Ford did the best he could. Like, there was a scene where he was talking about Betty, and there was tears in his eyes. Like, he was genuinely acting. And I was with you, Perry. I thought he was going to phone it in, because doesn't have a good reputation in his old age. He's kind of a cranky dude, but he did try. It's just, it kind of took me out of the movie. And then, yeah. I don't know the Red Hulk, but I didn't see him going from slam your fist on the table to a Hulk. Like, there was just pieces missing.
Yeah, they didn't give it
I definitely agree with that
story. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is something that should have been built up a little bit more, and then like in like a post-credit scene or something, you see him Hulk out or something like that. I think would have been worked a little more. Although, who really impressed me was Danny Ramirez, who played Joaquin in this. Like, because I saw him in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but like Nick said, he didn't really have a big role there, so there wasn't really anything to be impressed by. But I thought him and Mackie did a great job playing off each other. I really kind of felt their dynamic work out really good. I like the way he was playing off Isaiah as well. So he was kind of, no, I think Carl Lumley as Isaiah would be the MVP of this, but I think Danny Ramirez would be a close second for me.
I could see that. I like him. I hope they keep bringing him back. I'm assuming they will.
Yep, he's already confirmed to be part of Sam's Avengers team in Avengers Doomsday.
Oh yeah, because I asked you, I was like, is this the bad one? The bad movie's coming next. The next big Avenger bad. You know what I'm saying?
The next big bad.
The big bad Avengers.
Yeah, I think you were asking something about comparing it to Thunderbolts, but yeah, no, it's he will be in the next one. I agree about Isaiah though. I mean, this is just because I have to at some point list this, like, because this is another opportunity. I have a list of the things that I think they were trying to make this movie and like the stories that are there. So you've got the Red Hulk. I think that should have been its own movie. The story about a wrongful imprisonment of both Isaiah and the not the Thinker, the leader. So you've got
The leader, yeah, that's his name.
the whole idea of people being wrongfully imprisoned and being, held longer than they should be because it's convenient for things. You've got all of the race issues that are sort of danced around in this movie. You've got the I'm not Steve Rogers storyline that's thrown into this movie. You've got the having a new Cap sidekick. All of those last three, by the way, all also to some degree took place in the TV show, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, done better in my opinion. Then you've got the Ross redemption with his daughter story arc, which could have, like you said, I mean, he's got the chops to act that if you want him to, but they didn't write very well for that. It was just kind of this tack on piece so we could throw Liv Tyler in for some reason. And then you've got the espionage, geopolitical mystery, the idea of the brainwashing that's happening. And as you mentioned, Perry, like how that interacts with, okay, now Japan's backing out of this big deal and all that jazz. And then, the connection to Eternals, which I thought was fine the way that it was to also then introduce, adamantium and putting that in. But that also could have just been a name drop thing and stayed more or less the way that it was. And you could have then connected that with one or two of the other 6 things that I just listed, and any combination of those would have been fine if you didn't try to do all of them. And that's the thing, is it was like, look at the storyline of the redemption arc with his daughter. All of that time, all of the screen time, in my opinion, that was put towards that was useless. It does not actually make you care, in my opinion, about his character more. It doesn't generate that sort of concern for him. The average watcher is probably like my wife, where they don't even remember that being a thing. So why? You know what I mean? Whereas you could have then instead put more time into the geopolitical. You could have instead done a real story about race or about wrongful imprisonment and do something really cool. All of which were, a lot of these interesting types of ideas. I think, you look at, if we compare it to the Winter Soldier, which we've done, you've still got that mystery, you've got some of that geopolitical, you've got espionage, and you've only got those 2 or 3 things that are all linked very closely together, and that's all that the movie's about, right? You don't try to mess it up with a bunch of extra stuff, and I think that's where this movie fails.
I think too. No, you're right. I agree with that, and I think the thing with Betty was so weird because it's like a Chekhov's gun that's not fired. Because they keep building this, and my thought was okay, so, and even down to the cherry blossoms, and then they have the fight in the cherry blossoms, so I'm just okay, this is what's going to happen. Sam is going to bring in Betty or something like that.
Yes,
and it never happens.
There's going to be a moment with her coming in and calming him, and that's going to be the thing that causes him to not Hulk out, and instead, nope.
Yeah, so that was. And I don't know if I want to say it's disappointing, but it was just a weird inversion of expectations. Because it's not the kind of thing that you have to invert.
Yeah, it's like a red herring for absolutely no reason. It's not like there was some other more satisfying reveal or mystery way that he defeated the Hulk. Instead, they just had him fight the Hulk. I think, and that's less satisfying.
None of the wins or kills or whatever were earned or felt good. They just kill Juan Carlo Esposito. They just kill him. He just stabs him, and Cap kills him. And right? Oh no, I guess he's alive later. But he just he's it just felt really forced. Oh, he got him down, and then what's his name? The leader is his name.
The leader, yeah.
He just walks away and turns himself in. None of that was satisfying. And then the Hulk at the end, I don't even remember. How did he unhulk?
I mean, he just
Sam basically talks him down eventually after,
He stabs him a bunch of times.
Oh,
There's a
that's right.
lot of stabbing in this movie.
I literally already forgot. I remember they got him to pass out, and then I forgot that when he comes at him again, he's like, "No, look around you." You know, it's like he basically does what you would think they were going to do with Liv Tyler, which is the other thing that's funny to me, is because I watched that later scene, or maybe I think it's not post credit, but it was a later scene where you have the conversation between his daughter and
right. They're
Roth.
on the phone conversation. Yeah.
Well, there's that, but then
Oh
there's
no,
the
when she visits him in the raft. Yeah, that's at the tail end. Yeah.
I literally spent the first time I was watching this movie, I was thinking to myself, did they only have the ability, like, did just Liv Tyler refuse, but they had recordings of her from the first movie or something, and they're just repurposing those recordings to cobble together, you know, her phone call or other things? So then when she actually appeared in person, I thought to myself, like, this looks weird. There was something weird about her face. It looked like there was a filter. It was clearly some kind of blue screen or green screen. I'm like, she's obviously not there with them on the day. She's filming herself. Or even more crazy would be like if 10 years from now it's revealed that, you know, they deep faked her and, you know, I don't know if they had the rights to do that, or, you know, I'm sure that we would have heard about it if they didn't have the rights and didn't have her blessing at this point to do it. But, you know, like, I think there could have been something weird, because otherwise, why didn't they have... Because this is the cherry blossoms, especially that final scene after the cherry blossoms have all been destroyed, and you've got Cap like appealing to the humanity in Red Hulk. You could have just had that be her. And if she wasn't on site to shoot anyway, that scene was shot on green screen. Clearly, it did not look like real life. It was the worst CG of the whole film. So just put her in there and have it still be the thing that we're talking about, where Chekhov's gun at least gets fired. Like.
So Danny, do you have any thoughts about Liv Tyler and Betty and that whole thing that you wanted to add in on that?
No, I literally don't remember her. But she did look angelic at the end, and I'm like, I don't know. I just didn't believe it. I didn't believe the relationship. I believed it on Harrison Ford's end because of his acting, but I didn't believe the like payoff. I don't know. That's what I think this movie struggled with a lot. Besides the 73 plot points that Nick was saying, like or what they were trying to do is like the payoffs for everything were not satisfying. And I think the most interesting storyline in this was the mind control piece of it. And they kind of also gloss over that too. And they just so easily, like, the one man that has the answer, they're like, and your heart stops. And then it did. You know, like, I don't know. They just could have done a lot more with the mystery around it, because I was in when Isaiah all of a sudden turns and then random people are turning and you're like, why are these people? Who are these people? And I don't think they really took enough time to explain all of it, and then it just ended.
No, I agree completely. They gloss over a ton of stuff in this. Also, the Serpent Squad, the Serpent Society, Serpent Squad, they've gone by both names. They're just Serpent here. There were supposed to be more characters in there. Like, Rosa Salazar was in it as Diamondback. And we also had Copperhead. That was the guy who who fights Cap at the beginning of the movie. And they were supposed to have like more tech involved in them, in their uniforms or something like that. And it was supposed to have been supplied by the leader, which I think overall, would have been so much more interesting if you had Serpent as like the central antagonist. You had this stuff with, doesn't have to be the leader, could have been someone else, but you had someone behind pulling the strings. Maybe even Ross doing it behind the scenes would have been interesting. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, Val from Thunderbolts and Falcon and Winter Soldier, because Julia Louis-Dreyfus was originally reported to be in this movie too. So it feels like they could have done something a lot more interesting with that, like her trying to dirty up Cap's legacy, or Samus Cap, to put more focus on what she's going to be doing with her own attempt to create her own version of the Avengers. I think all that would have been a lot more interesting than what we got. Playing a little bit more with the political side of things would have been more interesting, but it just feels like, and especially Giancarlo Esposito, I mean, this is one of the greatest actors living today, and you just it felt like a Mads Mikkelsen situation where you just completely wasted this actor on this character that is nothing. And especially when I think about Mikkelsen, just like, man, if you guys just waited a few years, you could have had him as Doctor Doom instead of going back to Robert Downey Jr. And then with this, when they first talked about one of the big ideas about for Giancarlo would be like him playing Professor X. And I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
And instead, you waste him as Sidewinder. It just feels like such a weird choice.
Yeah, it's this throwaway character that also, I mean, I think I remembered hearing reports too, like you were saying, there was this whole other piece to them, and he was written in later, and it's almost like they knew that if they're going to change things up and they're going to recreate, you know, who this whole storyline is, well, we have to have someone who's at least really central, gonna draw people in with their acting to justify it. But like you said, that's just wasting them, because like you're basically saying, we know we have bad writing, so we're going to rely on this good actor to make the bad writing not seem as bad. Whereas you could have given good writing to the fantastic actor and done amazing things.
And there's also the design for the leader. I'm not sure if you guys saw the original prosthetic designs they had versus what they went with. So
I don't think Danielle does.
Okay, so this is now, I just showed them the look. We had this original one here on the left where it was much more similar to the comics, although he still has his hair, where he's just got like a big skull. And then the one they went to was the one with like the exposed brain and the green skin. I don't know. What do you guys think about this? Nick, what do you think?
I kind of like the one on the left. I mean, it does look off-putting. It's almost, in a way, more unsettling than the one they ended up choosing. But I think I kind of dig it.
I think it looks like Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm more with Danny on this. I know a lot of people have talked about this. I've seen people talking about it on Reddit and stuff like that, and saying they should have gone, sharing Nick's opinion, they should have gone with the more enlarged cranium. I don't know, something about it just feels cheap, I guess. Just doesn't work right for me. It doesn't feel
Marvel. Like the one on the one that they chose feels very Marvel.
You know what? You're right. Yeah,
Marvel,
that's accurate.
But also too, I think, but I'm not completely sold on that one either. I think they should have done like some sort of mix of these two, because the way it is right now, either of them just doesn't really appeal to me too much.
Here's another example of like the payoff. There was no real payoff. Like there was supposed to be this huge shocking reveal, and I don't know this man. I guess I'm supposed to know this man. I didn't remember this man, and so he shows up, and I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know. It wasn't like surprising to me. It wasn't scary. It wasn't like, it was just like, okay, here's this guy that I don't know, and he's got a bubbly head and like goofy eyes.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, because it reminds me kind of what they did with Blofeld in the Spectre movie. Do you remember that? And where they cast Christoph Waltz, and they say like, oh, he's not playing Blofeld. He's not playing Blofeld. It's like, come on, guys, he's playing Blofeld. And he gets there, he has this big dramatic moment. He's like, you're talking to Ernst Stavro Blofeld. And everybody who didn't know about Blofeld is like, who's that? And then everybody who did know, it's like, yeah, of course, we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And it does, and I think the leader thing here is very similar to that, whereas all of us who remember Samuel Stearns and remember the Incredible Hulk, we knew this was coming, because we knew Tim Blake Nelson was in it, and everybody else, like Danny, is just like, wait, what? Who is this guy? How am I supposed to remember
Am I supposed to care? Yeah.
That's the same actor from the original one?
Yeah.
Okay. Because when he was in the shadows, the first couple of times they showed him, to me, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a Juan Carlo Esposito, Harrison Ford level actor. I was waiting for someone that I knew, and I was like, don't know. I don't know this guy.
I did like how they introduced adamantium in here, though, and linking it back to Eternals, because that was something else that a lot of people were complaining about. When are they going to reference the fact that there's this celestial that's trapped in the Arctic? And they haven't talked about it at all since Eternals came out. And so a lot of people were starting to wonder if they were just going to just quietly forget that Eternals even happened. But kind of like what they're doing with, hopefully they're doing with Secret Invasion.
Right, we're just gonna like, it's gonna be the it's, you know, once you get big enough, it's just like the comics. You get big enough, and then some future creator has to just say, you know what, that thing that actually happened that was canon is not canon anymore. You know, and it's bound to happen eventually. But yeah, Danielle didn't watch Eternals either, and that was one of the things. She was like, is this a thing? Or you turned to me and you were just like, what movie is that from? And I said, The Eternals. And you went, oh, okay, I don't need to know anything more about that.
You said, do you want me to explain this to you? I said, tell me the movie. You said Eternals. I said, great, I haven't seen it. Don't explain it to me. I don't want to waste my time.
But I'm with you, Perry. I think that this was a great way to at least have somebody talk about that very world-altering thing that occurred. I mean, that's like almost the same level as the blip, and to your point, like nobody's talking about it. And I also thought it was a pretty genius way to be like, oh, adamantium's going to now exist here, and we can start using it.
Yeah, that was new to me. I learned. I learned it.
Yeah, because adamantium in the comics, it was actually because Cap shield in the comics was not vibranium. It was a mixture. It was an alloy of like vibranium and something else, and it became this unbreakable metal. And the guy who created it, he was trying to recreate that formula, and in trying to do it, he wasn't able to, but he created adamantium instead.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that obviously they can't do that here because the shield was always pure vibranium. So doing this and linking it to Eternals is a good way to do that. Because yeah, adamantium, even though it started off through Cap, and then it was like Ultron made his body out of adamantium, and then after that it became associated with Bullseye got it on his spine, and then after that finally they gave it, Wolverine appeared and they gave it to him. But for a long time it was just a general Marvel thing, and then when Fox had the X-Men rights, they snapped up the rights to adamantium with that as well, so Marvel couldn't use adamantium in the movies at all.
That's how I knew the name adamantium. It's because Wolverine is made of that. Okay. I was like, I know this somehow.
She has seen all of the X-Men movies, the Fox X-Men movies, except for the best one.
What's that?
Logan.
Oh, that is the best one. Yeah, you've got to see that one. One of the weird thing too, and this is just a personal thing, but at one point Ross talks about how the Prime Minister of Japan is up for re-election. That's not a thing.
I was waiting for you to.
They have a parliamentary system. That's why he's the Prime Minister. The Prime Ministers aren't elected like that.
Isn't this Earth 626 or 0012199999? What Earth is this movie on? Ours?
616.
Oh, 616.
616 is the main Marvel continuity in the comics. There, it gets named as 616 in Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
Either way, that's not supposed to be ours because there aren't, actual superheroes in ours. So if you're about to say, if you're about to say somehow that it could be a situation where he's elected, is that what you were going to?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a multiverse. It's from a different universe.
Yeah, I guess so. And I was thinking like maybe Japan had a change of government after the blip or something, but I don't know. It's just something that stood out to me as like a strange mistake to make.
But I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong, the title of Prime Minister only exists in our planet, at least, as something from a parliamentary system, which would mean,
I believe so.
It wouldn't, the elections would never be conducted if you had the title Prime Minister, the same way that like elections for president are in the United States.
Yeah, exactly. So that was just something that stood out to me. Also, the fact that Japan has a big enough military presence to challenge the US was, I guess you could say that after the blip, they decided to build up their military. But that was another thing that I didn't know why they chose Japan for this. It just felt like a weird choice. I guess they probably want
Indian Ocean. You know what I mean? It's over on
that. And I guess they wanted to avoid like Russia or China, because Russia with the Ukraine thing, and they wanted to avoid China just because China gets very pissy about that stuff. So with Japan, they figured they're safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I share a piece of my nerdom that showed up in this movie? So at one point, Ross is riding his Peloton, and on the Peloton is Alex Toussaint, who is an actual Peloton instructor who exists in our planet, and also 616, apparently. But when Anthony Mackie was doing press for this movie, he actually did a Peloton ride with Alex Toussaint.
Oh, really?
So Anthony Mackie got to be like featured in Peloton, and then Alex Toussaint from Peloton got to be featured in this movie. I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice little cross promotion there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny that even though Harrison Ford's the one riding the bike in the movie, he is not the one riding the bike in real life. They gave that to Anthony Mackie to go do that as a part of his promotions.
There's only so much you can get. There's only so much you can get Harrison Ford to do before he starts. All right. So then there's also the idea of Ruth Botsaroff in this, and just her overall role, like putting aside the whole controversy, which is significant and important. I don't want to downplay that. And I understand, like, one of my one of my former guests, he had actually said that he was avoiding watching this movie because of her role in it, because she was in it. So I totally understand that. And but putting all that aside, just overall, I just felt like her character was not necessary in this movie at all. And I think what they should have done is, if you're going to do all these reshoots anyway, and you're going to try and diminish her role, then why not elevate, I think this is Zosha Rockmore's character, who plays the Layla in this, who also has history with Sam in the comic books. Like, she was a love interest of Sam's in the comics. I think that would have made more sense.
Yeah. You could tell, like, they were maybe gonna set up something. He's like, that's a friend, I knew her. But yeah, she did nothing.
And I don't think she's appeared in any other movies or properties and TV shows before this. Like, they literally just walk into it as though her and Ross have some sort of history that you're supposed to expect, and they seem to have a shorthand. And her and Anthony Mackie know each other and are supposed to have, you know, some history and shorthand. But I'm with you, Perry. It's like, it really did feel like, why were both of those characters there? Because they kind of serve exactly the same purpose in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially because once Ruth comes in, Layla just pretty much more or less disappears.
Yeah.
And she has nothing to do. And I thought, especially when they're hinting at like some background between her and Sam, I thought she was in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but then I just double checked now. I was like, no, she wasn't. So it was a weird choice. You're doing these reshoots anyway. You're completely retooling this whole thing. You're diminishing the Israeli actress anyway because of her problematic politics. Just get her out of the movie and replace her. Reshoot her scenes with Layla Taylor, and would have worked a whole lot better.
Yeah, I agree.
I also agree. I also think it's funny that it's the irony of her being cut out for her political stance, when I thought this movie was going to be an actual, like, politically standing movie. It's surrounded by politics, and it has no heart.
And it has nothing to say about politics. Yeah.
That's the thing that drove me crazy, is like, they get close to touching on things here and there, and I'm like, okay, now we're going to start cooking. And then they stop. They don't go there. Whereas, you know, I know people had issues with some of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and they'd also had like a lot of reshoots, but it is taking a political stance in that movie.
Yeah.
In that show. And, you know, Winter Soldier definitely taking a very strong political stance. And I felt like this movie had the potential to be as good as Winter Soldier if they had zeroed in on the political thriller aspect, but they don't. And it was really disappointing in that aspect.
I think it's because Disney's chicken.
Yeah, I think they've lost a lot of spine, and I mean, we're also in a different political climate where there is more direct retribution against media producers for not doing the things that those in power want done. So that's a whole other can of worms. But I thought the same thing, Perry, is that the theme of you and I's movies for your podcast seems to be unrealized potential. Now, this movie is better than many of the others that I've made you watch, but all of them still are. They had that, like, you can see where the movie could have been something truly great, and they just did not execute.
The weird thing is, because this came out in February of 2025, but the reshoots were done in like early to mid 2024. So
that far on, okay.
Yeah, so they didn't have like a whole. So I don't think it was the political climate overall, because there was no sense that, at least as far as I can tell, they may have had done reshoots later too. But I think I think the film was pretty much done by the time the election happened. So there would have been no need for them to have been as gun shy as they end up coming off here. So it's just a very, especially because they're so worried about getting too political in this, that Sam doesn't really have a character arc in this movie.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah, it's like they sort of hint at him wrestling, like I said, with maybe the racial component of it as it's linked to Isaiah, but they never really talk about that and never let him get into it. They have the, you know, am I Steve Rogers, and should I have taken the superhero serum as another, like, interesting piece, but they don't really have any sort of character arc related to that either. It's flat.
It's also the super soldier serum thing is something that's weird to me, because they don't mention anything about his reason why he doesn't take it. He just keeps saying, he says to Bucky, right? He's like, I should have taken the serum. And then Bucky asks him why. and then he just goes into the whole, I'm not as good as Steve type of thing, and it's just like, well, that why don't you take the serum? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it feels like you're not giving yourself a good reason to not have it. Where if you had something like, and I know, and in Falcon and Winter Soldier, they touched on this because they saw how it affected John Walker, but they should, like, maybe the Serpent Society is using the super soldier serum or something like that, or maybe they find out it's the one that people are using is a corrupted version and it's not, a pure one or something like that. That it causes some psychological issues or something, and that's the reason why he doesn't take it. But to make it a personal choice and not justify that choice is a very odd decision.
Agreed. They could have even done it something, along the lines of, I've become really close to Isaiah and I saw like how that was abused, abusing him, and therefore I don't want to be a part of the legacy or history of that type of thing. That would have been an interesting thing to say too. But yeah, he has like seemingly no agency, and he's supposed to be the lead of this story.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why I said he's no Steve Rogers, because he doesn't have any, they don't give him enough to do in this.
Yeah.
And me not knowing a lot of these things, I thought everyone else knew why he didn't take the serum, and I just was missing something, but that's not the case.
Nope, it's never really explained.
Huh.
Yeah, not really. And also the whole thing about him not really having a character. I feel like with Chris Evans, he's a strong enough performer where he's able to command the screen. Mackie is a great actor. I'm not going to take anything away from him, but he doesn't have that same kind of presence that Chris Evans has. So I feel like when you underwrite his character like this, he can't even, he's not really capable of pulling it back to him in a way that, especially when he's playing off like Harrison Ford. I mean, you're playing off like one of the most famous actors in history, and you're going to underwrite him in addition to that.
Or like Giancarlo Esposito. Like I said, I think they cast him specifically because they knew they were underwriting the character, and it's like, well, we'll just have somebody come in who steps it up. But it's like, yeah, then you're putting Anthony Mackie in a pretty difficult position. And on top of that, you've stacked the deck against him, and that's why there were a bunch of people who came out and were like, oh, see, we shouldn't have black-led superheroes or women-led superheroes. It's like, in both of those examples, they didn't do a good job setting up those characters for success. It had nothing to do with their gender or race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Any other things you guys wanted to mention about Brave New World that we haven't touched on yet?
Looking through my notes.
Yeah, I think we touched on a lot of things. They did not deliver. That's all I have to say. I wish there was more.
Yeah, I will say though, I'm glad that they changed his uniform as Cap, because in the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, it felt like it wasn't fit right. It felt like a little bit too bulky on him or something. But here it actually, it's a good fit for him. So it feels like they put a little bit more work into the suit this time around.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that, but now that you mention it, I do remember when he finally gets that fully realized, like in the final episode or two of that show. I remember thinking it did not look great, even though his character had much of an arc in justifying the growth. Yeah, but here, like you said, Danielle, he looks just great in that, and kind of fits it and embodies that very well. I would agree with that.
It's a cool suit. I just don't think this movie needed to be made the way that they made it.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't really further anything in the MCU. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right. And to your point about that, the post-credit scene is completely useless.
Yeah.
Right? He goes to... It's badly acted. Speaking of Harrison Ford, it feels like the Harrison Ford voiceover they forced him to record for Blade Runner. And because that's how forced that both Mackie and Nelson come off in that scene. And then and all CERN says in that scene is, there are other worlds and they're coming. It's like, yeah, dude, we know.
Right? Like that's been the plot of the last 3 things that you guys made, and he doesn't even say, he's coming. He doesn't say, Battle World is coming. He just says, like, there's a multiverse that exists, basically, is all that he says. And it's like, no shit.
Well, I kept asking you what movie comes after this, because I thought it was Doctor Strange. By the way, he was talking he's setting up the
right, yeah. That would make more sense if then you had Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
Yeah.
But instead, this movie came out several years after Multiverse of Madness. Like you had a movie with multiverse in the title. This whole thing is called the Multiverse Saga. We know.
Yeah, they would have been better off to just do some kind of like, I don't know, comical one, or do like another post credit that was, you know, him and Joaquin. You know, they had that heartfelt moment, but then okay, have a comical one when Joaquin's out of the hospital or something like that. You know?
Like have Joaquin practicing the aerial kick now that he found out.
Yes. Yeah, would have been a great button.
Yeah. Anything would have been better. Even if you took the Ross and Betty scene and made that the post-credit scene, that would have worked better. Or just had like a little scene of, because Ross and Stearns are both in the raft now, so scene of them in cells side by side or something. No dialogue, just like the shawarma scene. That would have been better. Anything would have been better than what we got here. But yeah, it was just a waste of a post-credit scene.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Okay, so I think that's all we have to say about Brave New World. Well, they did change the title of this. So if you guys, Nick, I don't know if you knew this, but Danny, I don't know if you heard about this either, but the original title was supposed to be New World Order, and then they changed it to Brave New World. And I can't remember if I'd seen the reason why, but I think it has to do with like all the conspiracy bullshit around the term New World Order. And so they're like, oh, wait, no, we can't do that.
Yeah, I was going to say that connotation and the political and all that's, interesting.
All right. Okay, so why don't you guys tell people where they can find you?
Great. You can find us, Nick.
I always love waiting to see if she's going to remember. So you can find our podcast anywhere podcasts to listen to. I'm sure whatever app you are choosing to listen to our voices with Perry and his show right now, you can look us up as In Love with Movies. That's the words in love, comma, with movies. A little bit of a play on things where we'll talk about relationships. We have guests on that talk about their philosophies around love and things like that. And then every single episode, the second half is us discussing some kind of a movie. I'm personally someone who thinks that the movies that we like kind of define who we are or explain who we are. It's like a good barometer for personality. And it also can be a thing where it's like this movie that you found at a certain point in your life and a certain time in your life made it have a very different impact. So we sometimes have conversations that are around like, oh, I haven't seen this movie in 20 years and it's a very different film for me now that I am watching it. Just as a glimpse of that, for example, there's been a lot of things that ever since having children, there's certain scenes about parenthood and things like that that were totally normal to me in the past and now hit in ways that I never thought possible. But yeah.
Barry was on our podcast.
In fact, what you were saying there is I was thinking that's exactly the experience I had when we and you had me on to talk about High Fidelity, where I loved that movie when I was in university and then rewatching it now, I'm like, oh, wow, John Cusack's kind of a dick in this, isn't he?
Exactly. So go find Perry's episode, so at least you know you'll like one person talking, and then go from there about whether you like the overall theme of things. You can then follow us on socials. That's at N Love with Movies. That's the letter N, Love with Movies, all spelled out. And then you can find me on socials, Letterboxd, Instagram, at Nick Loves Movies, NIC, Nick, LUV, Love, Nick Loves Movies on that and pretty much every social media platform that exists. Like Perry, I'm most active on Blue Sky. Go ahead.
You can find me on Instagram. It's funny. At Danny Miami 4. I don't really post a lot of movie things, but if you like boy bands, reality TV shows, and fitness, no one listening likes any of those things.
I'll bet there's somebody there's a Venn diagram. It's a small sliver, I'll wager, but there's somebody out there.
People are heterodox in their views, so you'd be surprised. All right. And as for us, superherocinephiles.com is the website, and superherocinephiles.com on Blue Sky, Super Cinema Pod on all the other places. And if you help support us through my Substack or Patreon, I've got a serial running right now, so you can sign up for free for both of those. There's free episodes coming out once a week, but twice a week if you're a paid subscriber. So check out those links in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. Superhero Cinephiles is produced by me, Percival Constantine. The show is created by myself and the late, great Derek Ferguson, our host emeritus. Visit us on the web at superherocinephiles.com to listen to past episodes or find out how you can be a guest yourself. Support the show by visiting our advertiser links or click the Buy Me a Coffee link on the website to make a one-time donation. We are Super Cinema Pod on both Instagram and Blue Sky, so please be sure to follow us. We'd also appreciate if you could rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and share us with your friends.
Thank you for listening. And as always, good night, good evening. God bless.